Hey everyone, I have a fan creation for all of you. It's written by Gabriel and it was put on my Lizardmen video for episode 1. Now, it's nearly 2,000 words long. I'm going to narrate it. If you would like to read it for yourself, I do have it linked down below on a Google document. If you would like to talk to him in our Discord community, well, I'll have his name down below for that as well. But I really enjoy when people put forth their own creativity, so I'm going to read aloud his entire story here, or at least chapter 1. And I believe he's going to write one for the Dark Elf campaign. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If people begin to come up with their own stories for these characters, it really gives you more emotional attachment to all of them. And I do want to thank Gabriel for writing the story. It's incredibly cool, and I was actually very touched too. Anyway, let's begin. To be once again in the old world filled Krog-Gar some strange feeling of nostalgia. It has been quite some time since he last fought upon these lands. The Eldosaurus shook those thoughts off his head. He had no time to indulge in memories. He had to fulfill the task entrusted onto him by Lord Mazdamundi. The sacred plaques left by the Holy Old Ones had to be found. Their knowledge was most needed if the children of the gods were to prevail and complete the most sacred mission. They have arrived that morning, things mostly the same. Just as he remembered, the Southlands were infested with warm-blooded races. The Lizardmen could smell their odor in the air, all too busy looking after their own selfish gains and care about the fate of the world. Anyone who gave value to their lives would stay out of the way of Krog-Gar's legion, lest it become food to the cold-blooded creatures. As Krog-Gar meditated on his next step, he was brought out of his thoughts by a quick set of steps that was coming towards him. It was Tippin, a skink priest that Krog-Gar had sent early to patrol the territory ahead of him. The slim reptile hastily approached Krog-Gar and dropped to his knee in reverence to the Old Blood. "Mighty Krog-Gar, I have terrible news. This entire quarter of the Southlands remains infested with the walking vermin. A large army of them stands some miles ahead of us." Krog-Gar gripped the hilt of his spear and his blood boiled at the mention of their hated enemy. He remembered well the last time the Skaven invaded his home, and he secretly wished for a chance to avenge the damage they had caused. "How many of them?" Krog-Gar inquired. "An army much larger than ours, mighty one. 2,000 at least," Tippin replied. "What are your orders?" A throaty growl escaped Krog-Gar and he narrowed his eyes. The Lizardmen could not continue on their search for the plaques, at least not until the grasp of the Skaven in Southlands was diminished. "We must face the walking vermin. Remove them from this region, one settlement at a time if needed." Krog-Gar let out a loud roar, catching attention of his forces, ordering them to move out. Krog-Gar scowled angrily at seeing the Skaven horde. Just as Tippin said, they greatly outnumbered Krog-Gar's legion. The Old Blood snarled lowly. The Skaven still trusted in numbers alone to win their battles. Krog-Gar would use the Skaven's arrogance against themselves. He quickly scanned the terrain, his brain already preparing dozens of strategies. "Tippin, send out your skink brothers ahead, from the left flank, and tell pick apart the vermin from afar. You are coming with me with the rest of the legion. Your magic will be required, priest." "Yes, mighty Krog-Gar." Tippin got up hastily while ordering his fellow skinks to move ahead. The small reptiles darted forward with great speed, well-aimed shots from their blowpipes downing the Skaven slaves by the dozens. "Zara's warriors, form up the front lines." Krog-Gar roared. The blocks of Saurus moved in close in perfect unison by the sides of Krog-Gar and stood still, waiting for their leader's orders. "Tippin, have the Stegodon and the Krog-Gar stay at our left and right flanks." "Yes, mighty Krog-Gar." Tippin did as Krog-Gar ordered. The lumbering beast obeyed the skink's orders in an almost instinctive manner. Krog-Gar let out a thunderous bellow. The already wavering Skaven trembled in fear after hearing the roar, and his legion lunged forward to clash with the Skaven. What ensued was nothing less of a complete and utter slaughter. Krog-Gar gave in to the inner beast. When he was back to his senses, he saw himself being surrounded by Skaven slaves. The last defender of Choto let out a throaty growl, almost similar to a chuckle before he started to cut the worthless rodents apart. If there was ever any doubt of the savagery that the Lizardmen were capable of, it could be seen in that battle. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Lizardmen continued to relentlessly crush their old enemies. The Krog-Gars were unconcerned at the spears piercing their flesh and just continued to crush the elite storm vermin like insects. Once they were out of ammo, the feral skinks took their blades and lunged upon the crowd of Skaven slaves. The Stegodon went berserk and started to randomly attack the walking vermin. The Saurus warriors continued to hold their ground. The Skaven fell like wheat to a scythe, eventually going on a rampage like animals. Krog-Gar grabbed the clan rat by the head. The humanoid rat shrieked in pain at his face being melted before being thrown away, its head blown to pieces. In the corner of his eye, he saw Tippin fighting with the same ferocity as the rest of his army. He also saw the leader of the Skaven Legion, a repulsive animal wearing a set of rusted armor, creep up behind the skink priest. Krog-Gar tackled the Skaven warlord. The two quickly got up to their feet and they growled and snarled at each other in challenge. "Lizard things, die to my blade!" the Skaven warlord said in a challenge. Krog-Gar was less than impressed at his enemy's attempt to look brave. His very scent gave away to the unrelenting fear that he was feeling. The warlord thrusted his blade forward, aiming at Krog-Gar's chest. The old blood stepped back once and used the hand of the gods to grab the warlord's blade before kicking the Skaven away. Their duel continued for a long time. They evaded, parried, blocked, and defended against each other's attacks while slashing, biting, and clawing with relentless aggressivity. Krog-Gar had to begrudgingly admit that the Skaven warlord was leader material. Then they had a turning point. After routing the storm vermin, the Krogsagors and Stegodon fell upon the rest of the Skaven horde. One of the crocodilian brutes made the Skaven warlord fly with a single swing of his hammer. "Retreat, run!" The Skaven hadn't even waited for the leader's orders before they began to run away. Despite the heavy losses, Krog-Gar's legion continued on pursuit, killing more of the Skaven before they could reach the jungles. Eventually, Krog-Gar ordered his forces to stand down. That now concludes Chapter 1 by Gabriel for our after-action report. Again, I want to thank you for writing that, and I do hope that many of you enjoyed hearing that story. If you would like to hear more after-action reports written by our very talented viewers, then let me know, and we can definitely do that. Anyway, look forward to more Warhammer 2 content very soon, and I hope that all of you are enjoying the campaign. And as always, until then.